What's up, everybody, and welcome back to First Fruits of Zion Reacts. Happy Hanukkah. Let's make some evergreen content here. Today's video is what's the file name? I like to look up the file name because that's the hint that I get about what it's about. Hanukkah, Dale Partridge. So someone is talking about Hanukkah. I wonder if they have anything nice to say. So before we get started, open a new tab, go to FFOZ.org, create a free account. If you want to learn the Bible from a Messianic Jewish perspective, that's the best thing you could probably do right now to increase your understanding of what the Bible says and what it means, because it was all written by Jewish people. So you got to kind of get into that mindset. You really want to get it. All right, let's see what Dale Partridge has to say about Hanukkah.
Can Christians support Hanukkah? No.
They tell me not to pause every couple of seconds for these things, but I don't think I can let that one slide. What kind of question is that? Can Christians support Hanukkah? What does it mean to support Hanukkah? First, let's just think about regular old Christians who have not looked into Judaism and are sort of minding their business. What kind of a question is, oh, should you support Hanukkah like someone else's holiday? Could you support this? Like, is the alternative to be against it? Like, is there an anti-Hanukkah crusade that I'm not aware of? Like, it seems like a loaded question. It seems like a loaded question. He's saying no. So we don't support this. We don't support this. What does that mean? Does he go around caring? I mean, I'm sure he'll tell me.
No, and here's why. Many claim Christians can support this holiday because Jesus celebrated it in John 10:22 through 23.
He did.
But is that true? No. Historically, yes. Hanukkah was the Feast of Dedication, an 8-day commemoration of the temple being reclaimed and rededicated under Judas Maccabeus in 164 BC. It celebrated the purification of a physical building.
Why is he saying this all in the past tense?
Jesus did not celebrate Hanukkah. John simply says that he was present in the temple during the feast.
I wonder if Jesus showed up at somebody else's birthday party and not this guy's, would he say, well, he was just coincidentally there. He was coincidentally there. Doesn't mean anything that he was there. He said, this is a stretch. You know what I think has happened here? This guy has decided that Jesus couldn't have celebrated Hanukkah for whatever reason. I'm sure he'll tell me. And so he's had to deal with this text, and he's interpreted it in probably the least intuitive way. Jesus being in the temple during the Feast of Dedication, he's probably celebrating Hanukkah. He probably wasn't there to pick up milk and cigarettes, for heaven's sake.
Scripture is explicit when Jesus does observe feasts that were commanded by the law because Jesus came to fulfill the law. Hanukkah was not one of those feasts.
Okay, so Hanukkah's not commanded in the Old Testament. So there's actually a question that comes up in Jewish law about these holidays that aren't commanded in the Old Testament, right? Or specifically in the Torah. In the Torah, it doesn't say celebrate Purim every year because the events that Purim commemorates happened after the Torah was done being written, right? So can we do this? Can we add a holiday? Torah says not to add or subtract from the holidays. The reasoning is in Jewish law that if an incredible miracle happens on behalf of the entire nation, then you should celebrate and commemorate it. You should celebrate the miracle, commemorate the miracle, so that you remember that God came through on behalf of the whole people. It's similar to the original reasoning for celebrating Passover as a commemoration of the Exodus from Egypt, right? The Torah doesn't say also commemorate some of the future event, but when God comes through in a miraculous way, specifically like an open miracle where the laws of nature, so to speak, are violated, commemorating that occasion, the anniversary of that occasion, is perfectly appropriate under Jewish law. Okay, so that's the reasoning for some of these newer holidays. We're talking about a holiday that's older than the New Testament, so newer is a relative term here. But some of the newer holidays that you find on the Jewish calendar, I think it's worth mentioning also that Hanukkah is called the Feast of Dedication, and it does commemorate the rededication of the temple, but that sort of downplays it a little bit. What Hanukkah commemorates, the specific miracle is that the oil that it wasn't supposed to last 8 days lasted 8 days. It was only 1 day's worth of oil, lasted 8 days. So that's the open miracle. But the multitude of hidden miracles that happened around Hanukkah was like the victory of Judah Maccabees' forces against the Seleucid Empire. The Seleucids, under Antiochus Epimenides, wanted to wipe out the Jewish way of life. They made it illegal to study the Torah. They made it illegal basically to be Jewish, to live Jewishly, to keep God's commandments. And they wanted to eradicate Judaism, right? Eradicate Judaism is essentially, that we by modern definitions of genocide, that's genocide, right? To completely wipe out someone's culture and way of life, even if you let a few of them survive and you make them assimilate into your thing, that still counts, right? Still counts as genocide. So he wanted to genocide the Jews, and he was not able to do that. And so we still have Jews. Critically, we still have Jews at the time of Jesus. So the Messiah can be born and begin to fulfill his grand mission that God had provided for from the foundation of the universe, right? Without Hanukkah, there's no Jesus. So that would be a counterpoint already to his initial no in answer to the question, can Christians support Hanukkah? I love Hanukkah. We have a menorah. I didn't have it ready for the video here. I think I have several of them. It's a great holiday. It's fine. Eat some fried food. And remember that God comes through for his people. That's fine. You should do that.
Importantly, Jesus viewed himself as the temple. He said, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." Now, the Jews believed that he was speaking of the Jerusalem temple, but as John 2:21 says, he was speaking about the temple of his body.
Yeah, there's a tendency among some interpreters to say that as soon as the Bible uses a metaphor, then the actual thing doesn't matter anymore. Right? Like, oh, Jesus showed us the true meaning of Passover, so let's never do it again. Never do it again. Now Jesus has he's imbued this very specific ceremony and all of its specific elements with new and rich meaning that can connect a person to all the stuff that he did and went through for us. So never do it again. Don't do it. Don't talk about it. Don't think about it. I don't think I ever really understood that point of view. I've always thought it was really cool. It's really cool to have that now, to know that Passover commemorates not only the Exodus from Egypt, which was a great, miraculous event, God coming through on behalf of his people, and now also the death and resurrection of the Messiah. Wow, what a great event to commemorate every year on the anniversary at exactly the time that it happened. So Jesus referred to his body as a temple, metaphorically. It doesn't mean that he is the same thing as the temple. He's talking about himself using the temple idiomatically to tell them something about himself. And again, once this idea that once you know about Jesus, all the metaphors and all everything that he compared himself with is irrelevant. He said, "I am the door." I bet this guy has a door in his house.
However, he did prophesy the destruction of the temple in Matthew 24, which then occurred in AD 70 as a judgment on Israel for rejecting their Messiah. So why does
the judgment is probably a little more complicated than that. They did reject the Messiah. Critically, they rejected his message. The leaders, there are lots of people accepted him and his message. The leadership was not interested in a Messiah for basically economic and political reasons. I say economic, they're personal economics. So they weren't interested in having a Messiah, and they didn't do what he said. And what he said was that the most important commandments are to love God and love your neighbor. And he really tried to get people to do that. And the Jewish sources say that, among other things, the second temple was destroyed because people hated each other, essentially for no reason. So there's a pretty nice overlap there between the idea that if the Jewish people would have not done that, or if the Jewish people would have accepted Jesus and his message, there's overlap between those two ideas, which I think is fascinating. Anyway.
Matter because Jesus is the true temple. To celebrate the dedication of a temple that Christ replaced and judged is theologically coherent.
Okay.
Even more directly, the Jews who celebrate Hanukkah reject Christ. And John says,
Not all
no
of them.
one who denies the Son has the Father. So Hanukkah celebrates a temple without Christ. Christianity confesses Christ as the true temple. The two are not compatible.
They're definitely compatible. Here we are, a Messianic Jewish teaching organization. Our existence gives the lie to everything this guy is saying. It's certainly compatible. I know tons of Jewish people who celebrate Hanukkah and they believe that Jesus is the Messiah. So there's no conflict there. This idea that Jesus replaces the temple. This is one of them Hebrews ideas, right? So in Hebrews, you have all these comparisons. Start right out of the gate. Hebrews is comparing Jesus to the priesthood, and Jesus to the temple service, and Jesus to the angels, right? And Jesus to Moses, and Mount Zion to Mount Sinai. And you have all these comparisons. And as we've said before here on the channel, and as you will find elucidated in detail if you go ahead and just go out there and buy D. Thomas Lancaster's commentary on Hebrews, Volume 1 available now, you will find that these comparisons are completely meaningless if you accept the idea that Jesus just replaces all these things. Like somehow Jesus replaces everything. Contrariwise, these comparisons only make sense. They are only elevating to Jesus' stature if all the things to which Hebrews compares Jesus are also great and wonderful. God told the Jewish people to build the tabernacle. David had this idea to build a temple, and God said, that's a great idea. You're not going to do it, but I want that, and I'll show you where I want it. Okay. Solomon built this temple, and this is something that God instituted, the Levitical worship service, and God came up with. It's all there in the Torah. And again, just from a bird's eye perspective, looking down at the whole Bible, it just don't make no sense for God to institute all these things and then at some point in history to say, oh, never mind, I've thought of something better. Here's a person that in some way fulfills all of those things just by existing. What we find in Hebrews is that Jesus does something completely different than the Levitical sacrifices. Hebrews says he does something that they couldn't accomplish. He's on another level. And when you have two things that are designed to accomplish different things, they can coexist. But again, I suggest you read the book I suggested earlier, D. Thomas Lancaster's commentary on Hebrews. And he will gently walk you through all of this in a rigorous fashion in which I'm not equipped to do in a short reaction video. I suppose that's about all I have to say on this subject. I hope everybody has a fantastic Hanukkah. And while you're at it, while you're shoving those latkes in, I prefer sour cream on mine, but you can put applesauce on your latkes. While you're eating some delicious fried food, go to FFOZ.org, sign up for a free account, and check. You can check the video description for probably more information, more articles on this topic. We'll have someone throw some links in there for you. Sign up for a free account, get a free book, start learning the scriptures from a Messianic Jewish perspective. Thanks for watching.